How do you humble a pick-me girl? I was walking home alone after a late-night meeting when I heard a man wolf whistle. Does a pretty thing like you like it from behind? He yelled. Luckily, I was on FaceTime with my best friend Annalise, so I wasn't scared, until he started chasing me. Annalise, I'm going to run to the 24-hour pharmacy on 3rd Street. That's when I heard it. A guy flirting with her on the other side. So you're telling me you've never been to Mykonos? Never, Annalise giggled. But I've always wanted to go. The man behind me was maybe 20 feet away now. I could practically smell him. Annalise! I hissed, breaking into a run. Call 911. Hold on, she told me. Then she turned back to him. Sorry, my friend's being paranoid about some guy. I cut through an alley. A stupid move, but the pharmacy was right there, just across the street. The man followed, his breathing getting heavier. Come back here. I just want to talk. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. The pharmacy lights were on, but the doors were locked. My stomach dropped. Annalise, the pharmacy is closed. I need you to call someone now. Wow, you go to Greece every summer? She was saying. That must be incredible. I tried calling 911 myself while running, but my fingers were shaking too hard. Eventually, the call went through, but immediately went to hold. Your wait time is approximately 12 minutes. 12 minutes. I might not have 12 seconds. Annalise! I screamed into the phone. He has a knife! Shouldn't you help your friend? The guy on Annalise's end said. Sounds like she's in trouble. Oh my gosh, you're so right, Annalise said, suddenly animated. I'm so sorry, that's so thoughtful of you to notice. Let me just... I heard fumbling. Hello? 911? My friend is being chased by a man with a knife on 3rd Street near the CVS. The man was 10 feet away. I grabbed a garbage can lid, the only thing I could find. He lunged. I swung the lid and caught him in the jaw, sending him stumbling back. My legs were burning, but I kept running, where maybe someone, anyone, would be driving by at 4 a.m. They're sending someone, Annalise said brightly. Then to the guy. You were so sweet to remind me. I get distracted sometimes. Where are they? I gasped, looking behind me. The man had gotten up and was following again, but limping now. How long? She wants to know how long, Annalise repeated, like she was ordering coffee. Uh-huh. They said about 8 minutes. There's a big fire downtown, so... The man grabbed my hair from behind, yanking me backward. The phone flew out of my hand, skittering across the pavement. I could hear Annalise's voice. So anyway, Mykonos, would you take someone with you? I bit the man's hand hard enough to taste blood. He cursed and let go. I dove for my phone, my knees scraping concrete. On the screen, I could see Annalise sitting at some bar, leaning toward this guy, twirling her hair around her finger. Tell them I'm on the corner of 3rd and Bryant, I screamed. The man grabbed my ankle. Did you hear that? The guy at the bar asked. Oh, she'll be fine. Annalise waved her hand dismissively. She gets anxious. So tell me more about your yacht. I managed to scramble into a 24-hour laundromat. The man was right there, pushing against the locked door. Please, I begged the woman. Call someone. Anyone. She fumbled for her phone, speaking rapid Spanish to someone. The man gave up pushing and started walking around, looking for another entrance. They're 2 minutes away, Annalise said suddenly. The police, I mean. Oh wow, is that a Rolex? 2 minutes. The back door was already splintering. It's a Patek Philippe, actually, the guy said. You have good taste. The door gave way. The man stepped through, his face completely calm now, almost serene. I backed against the washing machines, gripping a bottle of bleach someone had left behind. You shouldn't have run that far, he said with a grin. That's when we both heard it. Sirens. Annalise was still on speaker. Wow, Patek Philippe, that's even nicer than a Rolex, right? The man lunged. I threw the bleach in his face and ran, bursting out of the laundromat just as 2 police cars screeched up. The cops tackled him as he came out after me, his eyes streaming from the chemicals. The next morning, I went to Annalise's apartment. She answered the door in the guy's Michigan hoodie, looking confused about why I was there so early. I almost died last night. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. The cops came, didn't they? That's when something inside me snapped. You want to know the truth? I asked. Men don't notice you because you're special. They notice you because you're easy to manipulate. Because you'll literally let your best friend die for their attention. And when they realize you have nothing inside you except for desperation and a ran-through coochie, they leave. I didn't realize it yet, but my comments had stung Annalise, and she wanted to use them to ruin everything I had. Her eyes went cold and hard like glass, and for another second I just stood there watching her face change from hurt to something else. Something worse. She stepped back and grabbed the door with both hands and slammed it so hard the walls shook, and a picture frame fell off the hallway wall behind me. I could hear her inside throwing things, something glass breaking, then more crashing sounds. My legs felt weak as I walked down the hallway to the elevator, my hands shaking so bad I missed the button twice before hitting it. The elevator took forever, and when it finally came, I leaned against the wall inside, my whole body trembling from everything that had happened in the last 12 hours. Outside in the parking garage, my car sat 3 rows over and I walked to it slowly, each step feeling heavy. I got in and closed the door and just sat there gripping the steering wheel, my knuckles white. 10 minutes passed before I felt steady enough to put the key in and start driving. The streets were mostly empty on Sunday morning, and I drove home on autopilot, taking the same route I always took. At my apartment building, I parked crooked and didn't bother fixing it. Inside my place, I went straight to the couch and collapsed onto it, still wearing my jacket and shoes. Everything from last night hit me in waves. The man chasing me, his hand grabbing my hair, the taste of blood when I bit him, throwing bleach in his face, and through it all, Annalise just talking about that guy's watch. My stomach felt sick thinking about how she kept flirting while I screamed for help. The words I'd said to her kept playing in my head too. Mean words, but true ones. My body felt heavy and exhausted, but my mind kept racing. I forced myself to get up and go to the kitchen where I found some crackers and made myself eat 3 of them, even though my stomach turned at the thought of food. Then I grabbed my keys and headed back out because I needed to file the police report while everything was still fresh. The police station was 20 minutes away, and the whole drive there my hands kept shaking on the wheel. Inside the station, the lights were those awful bright white ones that hurt your eyes and made everything look harsh. The officer at the desk gave me forms to fill out and pointed to some plastic chairs. My hand cramped from writing every single detail about what happened, where I ran, what the man looked like, how tall he was, what he said, everything I could remember. After 40 minutes of writing, a woman in a dark suit came over and introduced herself. "I'm Detective Donna Curry," she said, shaking my hand firmly. "I'll be handling your case from here." She led me to a small room with a table and 2 chairs and sat across from me with a notebook. "These cases can take time," she said, looking at me with kind but serious eyes. "If we catch him, he might make bail." She asked me more questions, going over everything again, and I told her about the laundromat and the woman there who called someone, about throwing the bleach, about Annalise being on FaceTime the whole time. When I finally left the station, it was afternoon and I drove home feeling drained. Back at my apartment, I grabbed my phone and laptop and started taking screenshots of everything. The FaceTime call log showed 47 minutes, starting at 3:52 a.m. I scrolled through Annalise's Instagram and found her posts from last night at the bar, one at 4:11 a.m. showing her and that guy, another at 4:23 a.m. of their drinks. My fingers moved without thinking, saving everything, organizing it into a folder on my desktop. The screenshots felt like proof that I wasn't crazy, that this really happened the way I remembered it. Later, when the sun was going down, I picked up my phone to text Annalise, typing out a message about needing space and boundaries after what happened. I hit send and watched the delivered notification pop up, but no read receipt appeared. 5 minutes later, though, she posted an Instagram story of her getting coffee with some girl I didn't know, both of them laughing at something on her phone. She'd seen my message for sure. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. Every little sound made me jump. A car door outside, footsteps in the hallway, the ice maker in my fridge. I kept checking the locks on my door, looking out the peephole, making sure the windows were latched. My heart raced every time I heard anything. When the sun finally came up, I was still awake, sitting on my couch with a kitchen knife on the coffee table in front of me. I felt stupid, but also relieved that the night was over. Monday morning, I had to go to work, and it felt completely unreal, like I was in 2 different worlds at once. I sat at my desk trying to focus on emails, but my mind kept going back to Saturday night. Liam Goldman, my supervisor, stopped by my cubicle around 10. "You okay?" he asked, and I could tell he noticed something was off. "Just had a rough weekend," I said, not wanting to get into it at work. He nodded and didn't push, but I could feel him watching me the rest of the morning. At lunch, I sat in the break room scrolling through my phone, and there it was. Annalise posting brunch photos with 3 other girls, all of them with mimosas, and she was still wearing that stupid Michigan hoodie from the guy at the bar. The pictures were all smiles and sunshine like nothing had happened at all. My chest felt tight with anger seeing her act so normal while I couldn't even sleep. Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang while I was trying to work, and Detective Curry's name showed up on the screen. She told me they were pulling footage from all the shops near the laundromat, and asked if I could come look at photos if they found anyone matching my description. My hands got sweaty just thinking about seeing his face again, but I said yes because what else could I do? That night, I barely made it to my bed before the nightmares started, running down empty streets with nobody answering when I screamed for help. The man always right behind me no matter how fast I ran. I woke up at 3 in the morning with my sheets soaked through and my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Wednesday morning, I sat at my computer looking up therapists on my insurance website, scrolling through names and photos until I found one named Nia Martin, who had good reviews for trauma stuff. The receptionist who answered sounded really nice, and when she said the words trauma counseling, my voice cracked and tears started running down my face even though I tried to stop them. She booked me for Thursday afternoon, and I hung up feeling weird about crying to a stranger on the phone. Later that day, I checked Instagram during a bathroom break and saw Annalise had posted one of those quote stories with fancy lettering that said, "When people show you who they really are, believe them," and underneath in smaller text, "Some people create their own storms." 3 different mutual friends texted me within an hour asking if we were fighting and what was going on between us. I didn't answer any of them because what was I supposed to say? Thursday morning while I was making coffee, my phone buzzed with a DM notification from Bryson Knoll, the guy from the bar with the watch. He wrote, "Hey, no hard feelings about the other night, your friend seems sweet. Hope you're okay," with a smiley face at the end, like the whole thing was some minor misunderstanding. Reading it made my skin feel tight and wrong like bugs were crawling on me. Detective Curry called again that afternoon to schedule me for a photo lineup next Tuesday, and explained that even if I picked someone out, it might not be enough without more evidence since eyewitness stuff isn't always reliable in court. The way she said it made everything feel pointless, like why was I even trying if nothing would stick anyway? Thursday's therapy appointment came faster than I expected, and sitting in Nia Martin's office was harder than I thought it would be. She had me tell her everything that happened and then taught me this breathing thing where you count to 4 breathing in and hold it, and count to 4 breathing out. For the first time since Saturday, I felt like maybe I wasn't going completely crazy, even though my hands were still shaking when I left her office. Friday morning, an unknown number called while I was getting dressed, and when I answered, it was some court clerk telling me about the arraignment date if they caught the guy, and mentioning real casual that he'd probably make bail within a day or two. The thought of him walking around free made me want to pack everything and move to a different apartment, or maybe a different city. That afternoon around 3, I was trying to focus on a spreadsheet when an email from HR popped up with the subject line regarding recent complaint. My stomach dropped before I even opened it because I knew what it would say. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint saying I was spreading false stories about a traumatic event for attention and creating a hostile work environment with my behavior. The wording sounded exactly like something Annalise would write, all formal and fake, concerned with just enough detail to sound believable, but not enough to prove anything. I read it 3 times before closing my laptop and putting my head down on my desk. My phone rang again, and I almost didn't answer, but it was a number I recognized from Saturday night. The woman from the laundromat, Olive Lee, was calling to say she'd gotten my number from the police report and wanted to help however she could. Her English wasn't great, and she kept switching between English and Spanish, but the way she kept saying she saw everything and wanted to help made my eyes get wet again. She agreed to talk to the police as a witness and gave me her address in case I needed anything else from her. I thanked her probably 10 times before hanging up and saved her number with a heart next to her name. That evening around 7, my doorbell rang, and through the peephole I saw Annalise standing there holding her phone up at chest level. The screen was clearly on and recording. She knocked again and called out that she just wanted to talk and clear things up. I grabbed my own phone and started recording before opening the door, but kept the chain on. She immediately started talking about how worried she was about me and how I seemed to be having some kind of breakdown. Her voice was fake, sweet, and loud enough that she was obviously performing for the recording. I told her to leave and that I didn't want any contact with her. She kept trying to get me to say something about the assault, or about what I'd said to her that morning. I just repeated that she needed to leave my property immediately, or I'd call the police. She finally left after about 5 minutes of trying different angles to get me to react. As soon as she was gone, I sat at my laptop and typed up everything that had just happened. I included the timestamps from my recording and described how she'd positioned her phone to record our interaction. I attached the video file to emails for both Detective Curry and the HR department at work. Writing it all down and organizing the evidence made me feel less helpless about whatever game Annalise was playing. The weekend passed slowly with me jumping at every noise and checking my locks constantly. Monday morning came too fast, and I had to face the HR meeting they'd scheduled about the anonymous complaint. Liam was there as my witness, which helped a little even though he looked uncomfortable the whole time. The HR woman read from her notes about how someone had reported that I was spreading false stories about a traumatic event to get sympathy from coworkers. She said they had to investigate all complaints, but that I had the right to provide my side of the story. I pulled out the folder I'd prepared and started laying out documents on the conference table. The 911 call record showing I'd been on hold for 12 minutes was first. Then the screenshots of Annalise's social media posts from that night showing her at the bar during my attack. Olive's contact information came next, along with her statement that she'd witnessed everything at the laundromat. The police case number and Detective Curry's business card completed the pile. Each piece of paper felt like putting on armor against whatever lies were being spread about me. The HR woman took photos of everything and said they'd need time to review, but that I could return to work while they investigated. That afternoon, Detective Curry called and said she wanted to meet to discuss safety planning. At the station, she handed me a checklist that made everything feel both more real and more manageable. She told me to vary my routes to and from work and to share my location with someone trusted at all times. The suggestion to consider a restraining order sat heavy in my stomach. She also strongly advised staying off social media completely while the investigation was ongoing. I was scrolling through Instagram that night anyway when I saw Bryson's post about drama magnets who ruin good vibes. Our mutual friends had piled on with laughing emojis and comments about attention seekers. My finger hovered over the comment button, but I remembered Donna's advice and closed the app instead. The next morning, Olive called to say she'd thought about it and wanted to provide a written statement to support my case. She asked if the police could provide an interpreter for her formal interview, since she worried her English might not be clear enough for legal stuff. Her determination to help despite the language barrier made my eyes water with gratitude. I gave her Detective Curry's direct number and thanked her again for being willing to get involved. Wednesday's therapy appointment with Nia helped me understand some of what was happening in my head. She explained how Annalise's gaslighting was triggering my old guilt patterns about being too dramatic or needing too much. We practiced this grounding technique where you name 5 things you can see and 4 things you can touch and 3 things you can hear. It helped when the anxiety started spiraling about whether people would believe me or if I was overreacting. She also pointed out how Annalise had trained me over years to doubt my own reactions. By Thursday, I noticed something that stung more than I expected. The group chat for Marcus's birthday dinner next week had gone quiet, but then I saw on Annalise's story that they were still planning it. I'd been quietly removed from the conversation while she organized the whole thing. The social isolation hurt, but it also made me more determined to protect myself from her manipulation. That evening, I set up my phone on a tripod in my living room and started recording a detailed timeline video for HR. I went through every single thing that happened that night, starting from leaving the office at 3:47 a.m. Speaking the truth out loud to the camera felt like taking back some power, even though no one would see it except HR and maybe lawyers. I saved the video in 3 different places and emailed a copy to myself just to be safe. Tuesday night, I was washing dishes when I heard my doorknob rattling hard. My whole body went cold and I grabbed the biggest knife from the drawer. The rattling got louder and someone was muttering outside my door. I crept closer with the knife raised and looked through the peephole. It was just my neighbor from 4B swaying drunk at the wrong apartment. He finally stumbled away to his actual door, but my heart kept pounding for another hour. I went to the hardware store first thing Wednesday morning and bought an extra deadbolt plus one of those rubber door wedges. The guy at the counter showed me how to install everything, and I spent the afternoon drilling holes and screwing in the new lock. Detective Curry called while I was cleaning up the sawdust. She said the attacker had posted bail after getting arrested for a similar incident 2 weeks ago. My stomach dropped hearing he was out there somewhere. She strongly recommended filing for a temporary protection order immediately and gave me the courthouse address. Thursday morning, I drove to the courthouse with all my documentation in a folder. The forms were overwhelming with questions about addresses and employment and specific incident details. A clerk noticed me crying over the paperwork and came to help. She walked me through each section and explained what the judge would need to see. We spent an hour getting everything filled out correctly. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from our mutual friend Sarah. She sent a screenshot of Annalise's message asking her to pass along something. The message said, "Heard about your little protection order request. Desperate much?" Sarah added that Annalise blocked her right after she refused to send my response back. Friday morning, Liam pulled me aside at work looking uncomfortable. He warned me privately that HR might put me on administrative leave during their investigation. The thought of losing my paycheck on top of everything made me dizzy. He said it wasn't definite, but I should prepare for the possibility. I spent my lunch break calculating how long my savings would last without income. Monday morning, I walked into HR with my complete evidence package organized in labeled sections. Nia had practiced with me all weekend on staying calm and advocating for myself. My hands stayed steady as I handed over the thick folder. I requested a specific timeline for their review process, and the HR manager wrote it down. She said they'd need at least 2 weeks to investigate everything thoroughly. The protection order hearing was scheduled for Wednesday, but nothing went right. Olive showed up ready to testify, but her interpreter never arrived due to some scheduling error. The judge could barely understand her broken English as she tried to explain what she saw. He granted only a temporary 2-week order and said we'd need another hearing with proper translation. I wanted to scream at the unfairness, but stayed quiet. Saturday morning, I opened Instagram and saw posts from what Annalise called her healing brunch that all our friends attended. In every single photo, someone new was sitting in my usual spot next to her. She had her arm around different people in each picture where I used to be. The grief hit me harder than I expected, seeing our friendship erased so completely. Sunday afternoon, Nia and I sat in her office planning a strategic meeting with Annalise. We decided on a public coffee shop where I could record everything for my protection. Nia had me practice staying factual and calm no matter what Annalise might say. We rehearsed different scenarios until I could respond without getting emotional. Monday at 3, I arrived at the busy coffee shop 10 minutes early and set up my phone to record. Annalise walked in wearing designer sunglasses even though we were inside. She sat down and immediately started talking loudly about my supposed mental health crisis. Other customers turned to stare as she sighed dramatically about trying to help me through my delusions. I stuck to simple facts about the assault and what happened that night. She kept interrupting to tell everyone nearby how worried she was about my paranoia. When I mentioned the FaceTime call, she laughed and said I was imagining things. She claimed she'd called 911 immediately, and I was just too traumatized to remember correctly. The whole performance lasted 20 minutes before she left in a rush of fake concern. Within an hour, she'd posted on social media about supporting friends through mental health struggles. Bryson commented with prayer hands, and others chimed in about how caring she was. The manipulation was so obvious it almost made me laugh, but I knew people were buying it. Detective Curry called Tuesday morning while I was checking my email, and her voice sounded different, almost excited. She told me traffic cameras near the laundromat caught everything on video, the whole chase and him following me into the building. The footage was clear enough to match with other cases they'd been working on. I drove to the police station that afternoon for a photo lineup, and my hands were steady this time. 6 photos laid out on the table, and I pointed to number 4 immediately. That was him. Same dead eyes from the laundromat. Detective Curry nodded and wrote something down but warned me single witness identifications get challenged in court all the time. Wednesday brought the HR decision, and they called me into a conference room with 3 managers present. They ruled Annalise's complaint unsubstantiated, but offered me part-time remote work and employee assistance counseling as a compromise. The part-time meant half my income, but I accepted because losing health insurance would destroy me financially. I signed the paperwork and walked out feeling both relieved and cheated. Thursday morning, Liam forwarded me an email from Annalise with an attached audio file from our coffee shop meeting. She'd edited it to make me sound unhinged, but forgot the metadata showed obvious tampering with timestamps and cuts. Liam had already sent it to HR as evidence of harassment on her part. I printed everything and added it to my growing folder of documentation. Detective Curry called again Friday with better news. They matched the laundromat footage to 2 other assault reports from the past year. Same guy, same pattern. The prosecutor approved new charges, and this time the judge denied bail completely. Knowing he was locked up let me sleep through the night for the first time in weeks. I noticed Saturday that Bryson had gone quiet on social media. All his prayer hands comments on Annalise's posts were deleted, and he wasn't liking her stories anymore. Even someone as shallow as him could tell something was off with her version of events. The protection order hearing got rescheduled for Monday, and this time Olive's interpreter actually showed up. She sat in the witness chair and described everything clearly. The man chasing me, the bleach I threw in self-defense, how scared I looked when I ran out. Her steady presence and calm testimony made me feel less alone in that courtroom. The judge listened to everything and reviewed the police reports carefully. He granted a full protection order for 2 years with strict no-contact terms. Having that legal document in my hands felt like armor I could finally wear. I left the courthouse and went straight to a sporting goods store. I bought a personal alarm that clips to my keychain, signed up for a monthly rideshare budget so I'd never have to walk alone at night, and enrolled in a self-defense class that started the following week. Each purchase felt like taking back a piece of control the attack had stolen from me. The self-defense instructor was this tiny woman who threw a man twice her size across the mat during the demonstration. She taught us that fighting back isn't about strength but about knowing where to strike and when to run. We practiced breaking holds and creating distance to escape. My body remembered the terror from that night, but now I was learning to channel it into action instead of freezing. The rideshare budget meant eating ramen for lunch most days, but never having to worry about getting home safe was worth every penny. I set up automatic rides for any time I'd be out past dark. The drivers probably thought I was paranoid for taking rides just 3 blocks sometimes, but I didn't care about their opinions anymore. Work felt different with the remote schedule. I missed the office energy, but not having to see certain people who'd chosen Annalise's side was a relief. Liam checked in weekly and made sure I had everything I needed to do my job from home. The employee assistance counselor turned out to be helpful too, giving me strategies for dealing with workplace stress that had nothing to do with Annalise. Nia and I worked on boundaries during our sessions, not just with Annalise, but with everyone who'd enabled her behavior. We identified patterns where I'd ignored red flags because I wanted to keep the peace. She helped me see that real friends don't make you choose between their attention and your safety. The protection order meant Annalise couldn't contact me directly, but she tried using mutual friends as messengers. I had to block 3 people who kept trying to relay her messages about reconciliation and understanding. Each block felt like cutting away dead weight I'd been carrying for too long. Detective Curry kept me updated on the criminal case progress. With multiple victims and video evidence, the prosecutor felt confident about conviction. The trial wouldn't happen for months, but knowing it was moving forward helped me focus on rebuilding instead of just surviving. My apartment became my sanctuary with new locks, a doorbell camera, and neighbors who actually looked out for each other. The building manager, this older guy named Frank, started checking on me after hearing about the attack. He'd knock twice, wait for my response, then move on, never pushing for details but letting me know someone cared. The personal alarm stayed clipped to my keys, and I tested it weekly to make sure the battery worked. That piercing sound gave me confidence walking to my car in parking garages or getting mail after dark. Small things that used to be automatic now required planning, but at least I had tools to handle them. Nia pulled up a blank document on her laptop during our next session and helped me write an email that couldn't be twisted or misunderstood. We spent 40 minutes getting every word right, making sure it was all facts and no emotions that Annalise could use against me. The email just said I needed no contact going forward, including through third parties, and that any attempts would be documented. Nia made me read it out loud 3 times to make sure I felt comfortable with every single word. She saved multiple copies on different drives and had me email it to myself as backup before I sent it. Monday evening came and I sat at my kitchen table staring at Annalise's email address in the recipient field. My finger stayed frozen over the send button while my heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. I made myself count to 3, pressed send, then immediately took a screenshot of the sent confirmation with the timestamp. Within 2 hours, a mutual friend texted saying Annalise was claiming I'd defamed her, and she was going to sue me for slander. The friend said Annalise had screenshots of evidence and was talking to lawyers about damages to her reputation. I called the free legal clinic the next morning and explained everything to a volunteer attorney who looked maybe 25. She reviewed my documentation and laughed, saying there was nothing actionable in stating facts or setting boundaries. When the mutual friend texted again with more threats, the attorney helped me draft a response that shut it down immediately. Liam called me into his office later that week with a folder full of paperwork about restructuring my position. He'd gotten approval to move me to back-end projects where I could work flexible hours and wouldn't have to interact with the people who'd taken Annalise's side. The new role meant I could work from home 3 days a week and come in early or late the other 2 days to avoid the main office crowd. He walked me through the new responsibilities, which actually aligned better with my skills and made sure I understood this wasn't a demotion. The salary stayed the same, and I'd report directly to him instead of going through the team lead who'd been making passive-aggressive comments. That weekend, I found myself standing outside Annalise's building holding a paper bag with the Michigan hoodie folded inside. I'd washed it twice trying to get the smell of that night out of it, but it still made me feel sick to look at. The doorman recognized me and started to buzz her apartment, but I stopped him and just asked him to leave the bag at her door. Inside, I'd put a note that just said, "This belongs to you," on a plain piece of paper. No signature needed. Walking away from that building knowing I'd never have to come back felt like dropping a 50-pound weight I'd been carrying. Detective Curry called the next day to update me on the case timeline and explained the trial wouldn't start for at least 6 months. She said they had 3 other victims now who'd identified the same man, and the prosecutor felt confident about conviction. She gave me her direct line and said to call immediately if I felt unsafe or if anyone connected to the case tried to contact me. The detective also mentioned that with multiple victims and solid evidence, he probably wouldn't get bail this time if he tried to appeal. Thursday night, a coworker from accounting asked if I wanted to grab dinner at this new Thai place downtown. We spent 3 hours talking about her disaster dating stories and this reality show we both watched religiously. Not once did she mention Annalise or the attack or anything about the drama at work. She just treated me like a normal person having a normal dinner, and when I got home I realized I'd actually forgotten about everything for those 3 hours. I slept through the entire night without waking up once. No nightmares, no checking the locks, just actual rest. 8 weeks passed, and I found myself sitting in my apartment actually feeling okay for the first time since the attack. The protection order was solid, and Annalise hadn't tried anything since the legal threat fell apart. Work had settled into a routine where I felt productive and supported without the daily stress of navigating office politics. Nia and I had cut back to sessions every 2 weeks because I was handling things better on my own. I'd heard through the grapevine that Annalise had lost more friends after they saw her patterns, and she'd apparently started therapy herself. My evidence folder stayed backed up in 3 places, but I rarely opened it anymore. Most days I didn't think about her at all, too busy rebuilding my life with people who actually gave a damn about my safety. So yeah, that's basically it. Thanks for sticking around. It honestly feels like catching up with a buddy when I do these. Nothing fancy, just us hanging out. Come back next time if you're up for it.